Welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive World's Handbook. Today I'm just outside of Lone Pine in Bishop, California at Manzanar, the National Historic Site. And I want to take you through this important site, which certainly could be called a museum as well as a space of important heritage, and talk a little bit about dark history today. So let's take a look around. And so I'm walking around the visitor center, and this is actually a reconstruction of the auditorium that did exist during the time that the Manzanar concentration camp existed from 42 to 45. I like what they did in here, and it reminded me certainly of other genocide or Holocaust or tolerance museums in terms of presenting very stark reminders with visuals, racist plaques and signs, and also showing the life of children and families, which really brings home this point about the tragedy of this period in this disturbing American history. And I think one of the things that is effective in the visitor center is some of the sounds that you hear, as you'll see in a bit here with a radio broadcast. So let me offer the audio that I recorded during my visit with no narration here.
They are a dislocated people who have to have some place to live, and the relocation centers seem to be the most feasible temporary solution to the problem. Starting in July, the Law Relocation Authority began to work out a program whereby evacuees with sound records might leave the center indefinitely to take jobs and establish homes in normal communities. We believe that it is possible to distinguish between the loyal and the disloyal people of Japanese ancestry to a degree which will ensure the national security. So it is important.
And one of the things I wanted to offer here as we look at this display of layers of history is that I believe an important characteristic in any space that attempts to present forms of dark history is the necessity of focusing on the complexity, or as they put it, the layers of history. I don't think it's possible to simply engage the guest in dark history by telling one simple moralistic story or one side of the equation such that the audience is sated. Instead, when you're dealing with dark history, sometimes you have to deal with the existential, nihilistic ambiguities of the matter. And I think they do that quite well at Manzanar, and it's a model for, I believe, other places to follow that also deal with the telling of dark history in their themed and immersive spaces. And let me say there's another side of dark history that I want to address somewhat later in another video on this photo, but this would be the darkness of history that I would refer to in terms of interpretation and how interpretation is given to the guest. So look for a future video feature in which I focus on the specific issue of what this image might mean at Manzanar. So now I'm walking around the outside grounds, and I actually had recorded some audio, but it was very, very windy. What I was mentioning right here was that by experiencing the outdoor space, you really get a sense of the starkness of the horrific conditions that existed. The wind, the sandstorms, the over 100-degree temperatures that existed here in the desert. I like what they've done spatially, and they're doing these reconstructions of a few of the barracks here, whatever you want to call them, prison cells. And they're going to show one from 42 and one from 45. And just to the left there, you could see there were these markers of some of the other buildings. And I like the fact that they've also given visitors an auto tour that you can take, and you get a true sense of the horrific nature of this space, the 5,000 or so acres, as we look back here at the auditorium that I'm pointing out. And just back here then, you see conceptually then on the maps later during your visit, all the different buildings that existed. And you can see there, I think there's a mess hall. I didn't get a chance to visit that, so on my next visit I'll be going there just on the left. And again, here are the barracks that they're reconstructing. The point being to show the conditions that people had to endure through. Lack of privacy, primitive, extremely austere conditions. And so just right now then, I'm taking you inside and again showing you some of these austere conditions that you can identify here. Okay, and so we're inside one of the reconstructed prisons, basically. I mean, what else can it be called? Wouldn't call it barracks. You just get a sense of the austere conditions here, certainly. Oh, okay, this actually then looks to be that they're creating a future interpretive area, according to this. Indeed, so as I said earlier, looks like these are being built in 2015. This gives us a bit of an overview of what's coming. Another thing that this reminds me of is Eden Camp, a former POW site, German POW site in just outside of York, England. And one of the things you do is you walk through the former barracks or prison areas, whatever you want to call them, and it has a similar feel in terms of taking you through history by actually moving you through some of the space. So this is quite interesting to look at the future plans. I should say I didn't show you images, but there's a gift shop at Manzanar, and certainly it offers similarly dark souvenirs, if you will, about this period of American history. But I was really taken with the men's restroom. So this is just the restroom that you went, and I was, to relieve yourself, and I was using it at the end of my visit, and I was quite taken with this. I mean, the fact that they're trying to place the guest, his or her own existence, juxtaposed with the history of people in Manzanar using the restroom, I thought was an incredibly effective use of a simple technology here, an image and a narrative of one of the survivors, but in an incredibly effective way that made this connection between the guest, I believe, and this period of dark history. And I think I've made this point clear in other videos that also focus on dark theming or dark aspects of history. But when you visit a place like Manzanar, you cannot help but be shaken after your visit as you try to come to terms with this horrific set of events that happened in American history. And so clearly a point of spaces that emphasize dark history is to unsettle the visitor, the guest. And this is a key point that I think has to happen in such spaces. I hope that you've enjoyed this video feature today on dark history at the important National Historic Site in California known as Manzanar. I hope if you're traveling down 395 past Bishop, you might have an opportunity to visit this important site. I think it's definitely worth your time in terms of how history is dealt with in some deeply disturbing and complex ways. Please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Worlds Handbook.